allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
May I have a motion to approve this evening's agenda?
I will make that motion.
I'll second the motion.
Mr. Morrow?
Ms. Cowan,
Yes.
Ms. Phillips,
Yes.
Ms. Groff,
Yes.
Mr. Skrull,
Yes.
Mr. Belfrom.
Yes. Next on our agenda for this evening is the Kings High School raise report. Are you by yourself tonight? You'll do great as always.
Oh, there we go. All right, my name's Grace Jones. I'm here again. Very excited. All right, so our outstanding artists. On December 5th, there was a free community art night. Many Kings families came and enjoyed a free activity involving the arts. The National Art Honor Society members have completed 2 fire hydrants on campus and have 1 more to complete. Architecture students designed and built models of teeny homes. And then our National Art Honor Society and the Kings basketball team have been collecting items for the Kings food pantry as well. Band. Over Thanksgiving break, the band traveled to Disney World to perform and learn from Disney musicians. Since most of the band members were still in Disney at the playoff game against Anderson, the KHS band alumni came out and performed with the band. National Honor Society. On our staff in-service day, NHS ambassadors helped teachers and guests get to their learning sessions. Each staff member at the KHS received a handwritten thank you letter from the NHS members this past month. NHS held a fundraiser with Raising Canes where we raised money for our Kings Youth Nights program. On December 4th, NHS members volunteered with the Down Syndrome Association of Greater Cincinnati, where the students helped with their holiday market. This past week, NHS members offered open office hours for peer tutoring before exams. Spanish National Honor Society. NHS members taught about El Dia de los Muertos at the Cammy's It's a Small World event. They helped kids make a cempasúchil, a flower out of paper, and color a mask. They distributed authentic candy as well. Spanish National Honor Society students is hosting their annual teacher appreciation hot chocolate bar. Yum. All right. Clubs. English teacher Katie Isaacs is the head of both the book club and chess club. These clubs are new to the Kings High School and were created by students. The environmental club hosted a recycling drive December 3rd. Athletics. The Kings football team made history this year for being the first team in school history to make it to the Final Four. Even though they fought hard, they lost to Toledo Central Catholic in a really close game. The Lady Knights basketball team have started their season. They have a record of 3-2. They play Little Miami December 19th at the Castle. The men's Knights basketball team started their season. They have a record of 3-0. They play Edgewood December 17th at home as well. The bowling team has a record of 3-2 and are having a match currently right now. And then the Aqua Knights have had 2 meets so far. Both the men's and women's team won their first meet. They have a home meet on December 17th at the Countryside YMCA. Kings wrestling team came in 4th at the Taylor Pool tournament. And the Kings gymnastics team will compete at the Anderson Quad on the 18th. Make sure to go out and support our winter athletes. Raise team. The Raise team wrote letters of appreciation to each staff member and treated them with some pie. The Warren County Career Center. Sophomore class went to the Warren County Career Center on November 18th. Students were able to have hands-on experiences and see what career paths are offered at the school. Thank you.
Yes. Thank you, Grace. For the record, I like hot chocolate and pie too. Next on the agenda is public participation. I actually see that we don't have any public participation sign up this evening, so we will proceed to our next item, which will be the approval items for the treasurer. Mr. Morrow, was there anything you'd like to discuss, sir?
I'll go through the items if you
Yeah.
don't mind.
Yes.
So item D1, that's just the standard minutes from our prior meeting. Hope the board had a chance to look over those. Financial items. If you look at the document on there, you'll see that not much has changed since the forecast that was presented at the November meeting. Still looks like we're going to spend about $1 million more than we bring in this year. On that note, I just wanted to remind the board and the community that Mr. Sears and I are working behind the scenes to come up with a process to help achieve fiscal stability a little bit longer term than our current outlook. So that work is going on with us, and we hope to start presenting our plan involving board members and community members in a public forum after the first of the year. Number 3 is Medicaid agreed upon procedures provider. So we receive money from Medicaid through the state of Ohio. So students that are eligible for Medicaid, we are reimbursed for some of the services. We get about $400,000 a year in Medicaid reimbursements. As part of that process, somebody has to come in and look at our records and to see that we're doing what we need to do to meet those qualifications to get the reimbursement. We've worked with Ray and Associates in the past, and I have in the past. They do a really nice job. So I asked the board to approve them to continue to do those procedures to make sure that we are compliant. Cost is minimal, $2,500 a year, and it's a requirement. Somebody's got to do it, and they do a nice job.
And Mr. Morrow, this is just extending it another 3 years.
Correct. We currently work with them, and I actually worked with them at my last district. So they do a really nice job, and they're good to work with. Number 4 is an energy management agreement. This was something that was new to me at Kings. Didn't do this at my last district, but we work with a company called the Utilities Group, where we're actually purchasing energy from suppliers directly, and then Duke transmits it to us instead of buying it directly from Duke at whatever that market price is that Duke charges. You can see I noted we've saved roughly $116,000 in the prior few years by doing energy purchasing that way rather than spot purchasing it from Duke or our natural gas. So I asked the board to extend the contract with them. So Mr. Lucky and I can continue to work with them to try to get the best energy prices possible. Number 5, amended certificate and appropriations. This is updating the estimated receipts and expenses in the various funds. We were required to update this because the levy did pass, so we are expecting extra revenue over what we anticipated. So that was required by the county auditor. I met with him to make sure we had all of our ducks in a row when it came to the levy, and this was the thing that he said we needed to get done in December. Number 6, the First Financial Depository Agreement. Currently, we bank with Fifth Third for our day-to-day checking and our payroll. I was introduced to First Financial through the Maid Chamber. Carolyn is the VP of Public Funds. So I got to talking to her about what products they offered and how we could work with them. And they referred me to a neighboring district and said, we work with them and we have for a long time. If you use them as a reference. So I talked to them. It was Lakota. I know their treasurer, and he said they're great to work with, excellent customer service, never had any real issues. So I asked the board to approve us using First Financial as our banking institution rather than Fifth Third. They're actually going to pay us interest rather than just paying fees. And we have a dedicated person who lives in Lebanon that we can talk to and work with if we have any issues. So the customer service is a little more personalized than what we have right now. Number 7 is the public records log. You'll see that we're pretty much completely up to date. There's one item on the list that is yellow, meaning that it's a work in progress. I've sent 4 or 5 responses. It's a request for a broad range of information. So I'm going in and mining emails and data to send this individual based on criteria. So as I said, I've responded 4 or 5 times at this point. So we'll continue to do that to make sure we're getting them everything that they ask for. I'll entertain any questions.
Mr. Morrow, I'm assuming the savings that we see from our direct line with respect to utilities and the energy management agreement, that's something that you build in to forecasting, or?
Correct. But I did build in increases just because I knew that our contract was coming up. So our rate lock for natural gas and for electricity is expiring. So we're going to be looking to purchase new energy basically. And the market has really dramatically changed since we purchased last time, as far as pricing, and around 3 times as expensive as it was when we locked in our last agreement.
My next question.
Yes. So we're hoping by continuing with this structure that we're able to be better than if we were buying spot from Duke by purchasing up front versus just waiting it out, I guess would be the other option. So we think that this is the best option for us, but I did build in increases just because I knew that our great deal was running out, I should say.
I have a question on the amended official certificate of estimated resources. You said you work with the Warren County auditor. Does he provide you with the amount of levy monies he's expecting to collect for Kings?
He does. He provides that information to me, and he also provides property tax valuation changes. So the financial software that I use, it builds in values and also tax rates. So getting information from him is key when we're trying to build these amounts to make sure that 1, I have the most up-to-date information possible, and 2, that I'm not off from what he's expecting.
Okay, thank you.
Lastly, I have one more question, sorry. With the financial depository agreement, you said we're now receiving interest. I mean, were you just talking about like standard, like money market interest, or what are we?
Correct.
Okay,
So-
and we weren't getting that from Fifth Third?
Very little.
Okay.
Fifth Third charges more fees than other institutions that I've worked with in the past. And the way it works is they offset our interest payment with the fees.
Gotcha.
So in a low interest world, which we were in a year ago, you're constantly paying fees. And then now that that's kind of changed, we are getting a little interest, but after some analysis by First Financial, we're going to be in much better shape as far as receiving interest and a lower fee structure than we have currently.
Okay.
So between that and the personalized customer service, we think it's going to be a good match for our district and for my staff and everybody at Kings who relies on our banks to get
Absolutely.
payroll. And it's really the big one.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
Mhm.
Any more questions with regards to that? All right, so may I have a motion to approve Mr. Morrow's items?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second the motion.
Mr. Morrow?
Ms. Cowan,
Yes.
Mr. Skrull,
Yes.
Ms. Groff,
Yes.
Ms. Phillips,
Yes.
Mr. Belfrom.
Yes. Next on the agenda are the items presented by Mr. Sears. Mr. Sears.
Thank you. This evening, I want to take a few moments just to share with the Board of Education and the community where we are with our Power 5 future skills. Over the course of the past year, we've engaged our community, our staff, and the board into discussions around the future skills our students need to be successful beyond the walls of our school district. And through that process that we've utilized and engagement that we've done, this is kind of the summary piece of information that kind of accumulated a lot of the input and feedback that we received throughout the community. And so we've identified these as Power 5 future skills. So we believe there are these main skills that our kids need to focus on, develop, and grow to give them great opportunity for development beyond the walls of our school district. A lot of times different groups or organizations refer to these as soft skills. We've taken the approach to refer to them as power skills. Is that these are important for us moving forward as we begin to look at instructional design, look at the types of instruction that are happening in our classrooms, courses that are being offered, and decisions that we're making that support this. So we, on November 21st, we had a full PD day, and every teacher and staff member attended a session on an introductory experience into the Power 5 and what they are. So our teachers have just started to dabble into this. We have a strategic initiative that was set up this year that I've reviewed earlier this fall with the board. The strategic initiative around the Power 5 was simply to communicate it to our staff and to our community this school year. So we will build over time the best ways to implement this within our classrooms. And but our goal is to communicate that. So we wanted our board to see the latest iteration. I will always advise that this is a living document. And that if any point in time things need changed, updated, added, we want this to be iterative. And so that we're not locked into one piece, that if there's other feedback that we receive and we need to make sure that we're including that, we will adjust it as we go. So what this means for us moving forward. So we are going to be focusing on future focused instructional design. That's the key piece. So it's nice to have this and say, this is what we're about in Kings, this is where we are, but really putting this into action, developing instructional practices that build these skills and allow us to evaluate student growth over time are important. As we see the world advancing, how we acquire information, acquire content is only going to continue to rapidly increase in efficiency. The importance on our students when they leave our school district to not only have content knowledge, but also the ability to adapt, be creative, problem solve, communicate, collaborate, and have skills that enable them to navigate a world that we don't even know what jobs may exist that we're preparing them for. So it's a different way of thinking for us and a different approach. It's really going to drive a lot of the work we are doing with not only our staff, but with our students. And so we would be working on this with students throughout their K-12 experience, so that at the end of their career with us, that we feel like we have prepared them for anything that they're going to do beyond our school district. So some partnerships that we have, we are a few of us on the teaching learning team, myself, spent some time last week working with High Ames. High Ames is an organization in Southwest Ohio full of school districts and superintendents and instructional teams. We met last week for 2 days to collaborate around the concept of future focused instructional design, looking at how we're designing instruction to match this type of work. High Ames is partnering. We've been a part of High Ames, Kings has for a while, a number of years. And it's a great collaborative environment with our instructional team and superintendents to really collaborate around best practices. So we're partnering with them. High Ames this year is partnering with AASA, which is the National Superintendents Association. in a program called the Learning 2025 program. And so we are a part of this framework that it's really that future focused Learning 2025, where we are going to be collaborating with innovative districts around the entire country into various cohorts this spring. So we will compare our best practices, things that we're doing. We'll learn from others all over the country. AASA is a national organization that gives us access to some of the most innovative instructional practices and approaches across the entire country. The best thing about this, and some of the instructional folks, Mrs. Phillips, you will probably remember a name, Mr. Bill Daggett, Dr. Bill Daggett, sorry. Bill Daggett has written many books on educational research, best practices, looking at effect size on what works in classrooms. Bill Daggett is leading this work for High Ames, and he's leading this work for AASA. So we will have opportunities to work directly with Bill Daggett for what's happening within Kings. You can look Dr. Daggett up. He is world renowned as one of the most researched and innovative instructional folks in the entire world. And so we're fortunate to be a part of that. Some of our team met with him last week. We're looking on some ways to bring Dr. Daggett here to help our community and our staff move forward and his big focus is around future focused instructional design, around concepts like the Power Five. How do we really put this into practice within our school district? So some really exciting things that are happening moving forward. I don't know if there's any other reflection that you guys want to add to what I just said. I don't want to put you on the spot, but there was a lot of great momentum in our teaching and learning team last week as we were meeting and having some collaboration with other area school districts. So good.
One of the things that I'll ask is that since I'm currently the student achievement liaison for the district, and this year I've been focusing on everything around relationship building with the information I share. Should I next year kind of switch that to future focused instruction?
I think that's a great opportunity to align what is happening within and communicate out what's happening within our district. I think it's a great idea.
Okay, maybe could you ask the building principals if they could help by
100%.
sending me some direct information that I could share monthly then?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Take any questions if anyone has over the skills, competencies, mindsets here, or any related questions.
I don't have a question, just a comment that I appreciate your continued work on this. This is
Absolutely.
such a forward-thinking thing for our students, and I really appreciate all the effort you've put into this because I think it's very important.
Thanks.
Agree. Thank you, Mr. Sears. Everyone. Next on the agenda are the approval items from the Assistant Superintendent regarding HR and Business, Mr. Spinner, Mr. Lucky.
Good evening, President Belfram, Kings Board of Education. Several items in our column this evening. We'll start with personnel items that include staff resignations, new staff members, staff miscellaneous items, supplementals and stipends, and temporary employment. Pretty straightforward for this time of year. Looking forward to the new year when we begin to ramp up some college career fairs and look at some job fairs for potential new teaching opportunities. So this agenda will look a little bit different in the coming months as we gear up for 23-24, if you can believe it. But as of right now, this particular time, fairly straightforward with some items that we need to maintain the programs that we have in the district currently. Item number 2 has to do with supplementals. Each year, the Supplemental Review Committee meets and provides a few recommendations for changes and additions to supplemental positions. This year is no different. The supplementals being recommended are to support student activities that are currently in place. Currently, the coaches for lacrosse, softball, gymnastics, esports, and raise are unfunded or funded by parents or booster organizations. Currently, the band director is one of those positions that works throughout the entire year, the marching season and the concert season. The request is to break this into 2 supplemental positions, marching band director and concert band director. This is very common in districts with high-performing bands such as ourselves and accounts for the demand throughout the year. The approximate cost for these supplementals is roughly $22,000. There were other supplementals that were requested, but these were either denied or put on pause to be considered during a formal supplemental review. This is something we do every few years just to make sure that our supplementals are in line with the programs that we're offering. And it will also take a look at those supplementals that we currently do not fill to see if there are things that we can weed out and focus our attention on matters that are more pressing. This is part of the negotiations process with KEA, which will begin in the early spring. Happy to answer any questions you may have about the supplementals being recommended this evening.
So just one question.
Sure.
Why would these ones come before the board instead of other ones that were either denied or put on hold? What would be the driving cause behind that?
So, yeah, as mentioned previously, some of these positions are already in place, and the growth of these programs necessitate these coaches be in place. That has to do with lacrosse, softball. Gymnastics is one where there has to be one coach for every 8 athletes per the gym requirement, the legal and safety requirements. A lot of times those are the driving force behind positions, our safety and security, to make sure that we have enough coaches that supervise our student athletes as those programs grow and increase. Fall esports is one that has become very popular and definitely focuses in on students that are very keen into esports and may not be involved in many other activities. So we want to make sure that we support those programs to keep our students involved. Revising the high school band director and high school marching and concert band, as I mentioned, that's something that's fairly common. And then as we can see with Raise and the wonderful things that are happening in our high school, we would definitely want to support that program and continue to grow and get behind it. Some of the ones that were not brought to the table had to do with increasing levels. So there is a salary schedule that is attached to our supplementals and stipends. And so that will be something that we'll have a keen interest in focusing in on when we do our full review to make sure that all of these positions are in line with other positions of comparable sports, whether that be because of the time that's spent or the number of student athletes that are involved. We want to make sure that those are as equal as they possibly can be.
Okay. Makes sense. Thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions?
Initially, it was estimated that the added cost would be around 22,000. Is that still the case? Has that number changed?
That number has not changed. Mr. Morrow and I went over that earlier. That is the approximate cost, give or take a few $100s. I think that's probably on the higher end when we did our estimate. Additional questions? If you don't mind, I'm going to jump down to number 6, because that's another item that I oversee before handing the microphone over to Mr. Lucky. Item number 6 is board policy, second reading. Typically, we'll do 2 readings a month at our work session and our regular session. First reading this time around, because we only had 1 meeting in November. And then the second reading for these same policies is tonight. Just as a very quick review, the preschool policy 2280 preschool program, along with the diploma deferral, are both being revised to keep them consistent with state or federal law and Ohio Revised Code. Policy 2413, which has to do with career advising, now further outlines ways in which students and their families can offset the costs of post-secondary education. And these options are already provided, such as College Credit Plus. All remaining policies include minor updates in language and terminology. Mr. Lucky.
First item for me there is B number 3. We have to, on a yearly basis, commit to our compliancy for food service. This is just a yearly check the box item for us that we do remain compliant and can collect federal funding for our food service program. Any questions on that one? That one's not super exciting. Next one there, number 4, the attachments in the packet for the Mercy Hospital Lane Edition. Thank you, Dawn. That's the one I wanted you to pull up. Just to give you a picture of the rendering, there's a whole lot going on here. Biggest things to note for when you leave the high school parking lot and head north in the improvement plan here, it will give us a left turn lane, a straight lane down Columbia Road, and then a right turn only lane. Big benefits of this, obviously, it's going to move traffic off that roadway for those couple of times a day that are pretty painful during start and end times. Coming eastbound on King Avenue, there'll be a right turn only lane added there as well. So you're gonna see a whole lot better movement coming out of there. The big key for us, I think, from a safety perspective for our students is that red line. The hospital has agreed to add a sidewalk for us to drive our students up to the crosswalk to be able to navigate that area as the hospital opens. We want to make sure the circulation is as safe as possible for our students. So the hospital's really worked well with us to add a crosswalk at our second entrance and exit as you come south down Columbia Road to head straight across. There'll be a walking path there, and they're helping us by adding this 6-foot wide sidewalk up to the crosswalk there. So eventually you're going to see a whole lot of connectivity at the hospital, as well as coming straight across the front of our high school. If you've noticed, if you've driven by the high school, you see some green flags that were placed by Warren County. Those green flags, my biggest question was, how's this going to affect our playing fields out front? We don't want to take away any of our ability. We're squeezed as it is. So the green flags that are out there currently are at the base of the hill from the grade from the sidewalk down. So as you can see by the flags, it doesn't encroach on our playing field. So we'll be able to maintain that full surface out there for soccer, lacrosse, band, all of our activities that go on there. In that package, you'll see language on easements for water. So another improvement that's going to happen from the hospital going in over there is the water main's going to be replaced. So that project's starting really kind of behind us in the hamlet here. And that portion, while that construction is being done, they're going to go ahead and change that water main out, which will be helpful. Our water system here, if you're in the schools on a daily basis, we deal with water outages on occasion for main breaks. This time of year, it's about to get, I hate to say normal, but we have systems and plans in place for water. So I'm in quick communication with those guys on timing. When's it going to come back? Because there may come a time where we need to dismiss school because we don't have water. We've been fortunate over the years. We've come close a couple times, but the water system here and this improvement will really help keep driving that accessibility to water, because you don't have water for very long in a school, you're out of business.
And what's the time frame on this?
This portion of the project will be over the summer. So kind of speaking of improvements, you'll see that they started clearing in front of the KME baseball fields. This is in preparation for the other part of this. I mean, projects are going on all the time, but ones that really hit us is the lane expansion here in front of between KC and KME. So they started the clearing process, and they'll continue with that clearing to be in front of and be ready to go as soon as they can break ground and start that road widening project. It's exciting, good things for our kids going on from a safety standpoint between these two buildings and down at the high school. So any questions on that project? Okay.
Not a question, more a comment. As a parent who turns right from Columbia out to King Avenue, this turn lane is going to be a lifesaver.
Yes.
It will
Yes.
save time.
Yes, it will. And you see there's several improvements there that hopefully lead to a little bit less stress on everybody from a foot traffic, from a vehicle traffic. So it should be a positive.
I don't really have a question, just more of a comment on the fourth attachment about the water easement.
Mhm.
This is probably of no consequence, but on page 2, Deerfield Township is spelled wrong.
I will let my friends in the back of the room know.
Okay.
Well, this also, I know it doesn't happen often, but King Avenue occasionally floods when there's a torrential downpour. Will widening the road help that or make it worse?
It's a trick question, Peggy. It should help alleviate a lot of that. Everything that's going on behind us here at KEC are all stages out to help eliminate or minimize those issues that we have out here.
Okay, thank you.
Will that impact water in the high school parking lot as well? Or is that?
Crazy talk there.
Yeah, Lake Lucky will continue to rise every fall with the rain.
They can't, Deerfield Township can't fix that.
That, we own that one.
I honestly wasn't asking to be funny.
I wish I could say yes.
Okay.
Realistically, with what's going to happen there, it may help a little bit, but that's what it's designed to do, unfortunately. So, all right, any other jabs? Next one, number 5 there, talks about our cell tower agreement we've talked about in the last board meeting. Just want to bring up and reiterate that this just gives us the option to keep exploring. At any time, you know, we can't agree that a location is good. We can decide and push back from the table on this. With the expenses that we're seeing, Mr. Morrow talked about the gas and electric and the increases that we're about to see. This is a great opportunity, one, for us to explore some financial. The biggest thing on this is safety and connectivity. When you can't use your phone in an emergency situation, you got a problem. So this connectivity is very important from a safety and security standpoint. So this allows us to continue those talks. Dawn, if you wouldn't mind clicking on that next attachment. Just wanted to show, this is a estimate of financials that you could see. So this is one tower. They would only move forward if they were able to secure 2 carriers on the tower. So for example, Verizon and AT&T. In their heat map that they shared with us, a great opportunity for not great coverage is actually right in between these 2 buildings. It's kind of a dead zone because the amount of cellular traffic on 71 is drawing all their ability and usage. So there's an opportunity here. Just looking at heat maps for other buildings, there may be 1 or 2 other sites where they could plant a tower. It just has to make sense for all the parties. But an estimate you see there for a 30-year lease agreement for the tower is roughly called $500,000, a little more than $500,000. So you can see if we have an opportunity for 3 of those, it's a nice little injection of funds. Again, the biggest win would be connectivity from a safety and security perspective. Yes, sir.
Sorry, Mr. Lucky. So a tenant, I think I may ask this before, is a tenant a cell phone carrier?
Mhm.
Okay.
Mhm.
So this could potentially change if there were more carriers.
Correct. So you can get up to 4 on a tower. So they won't start a project with less than 2. Just the financials don't make any sense because the cost to put the tower in. But we could have up to 4 carriers on those towers. As the grid and the network continues to change to 5G, they'll need more towers in closer proximity. So might be a nice little opportunity for us in the future to continue on. There'll be just our school sites are good locations.
And just I'm just curious, I guess I could ask you offline. How do they come to the 25% for our revenue share?
Cost of putting a
Just
tower
the
in right
cost.
now. Yeah, that's a great question. We went back at them for that. The cost, I'll relate it back to the hospital. When the hospital went from 150 million to 200 million and they didn't change anything.
Yeah.
Very similar in the tower construction business right now. So cost of getting that tower in places has gone up substantially.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Just to follow up, there was a question a couple months ago, and as far as the safety grant is concerned, got great news and terrible news. The terrible news was we were denied the safety grant. I'm going to silver line the heck out of this because of the work that we've done in the district up to this point. Part of the grading process is a vulnerability study of each of our buildings. Our vulnerability study scores are very good. That's a problem when you're asking for money against schools whose vulnerability scores are not good. So we were denied. We've done some great things here and we'll continue to improve on our program. But when you fill out that vulnerability score check sheet for each building, we have so many great things in place that not many schools have in place, from door badging systems and cameras and all the things that we do, navigate prepared to resource officers. All the things that we do are great, but they don't make our score bad enough to warrant getting that grant dollar. So I wanted to update everybody on that. It's disappointing. And again, at the same time, it's a compliment to all the things that we've done in the district over the years.
Yeah, absolutely. Any more questions? No? Mr. Morrow, could you call the roll, please? Oh, may I have a motion to approve the items?
I'll make the motion.
I'll second that motion.
Mr. Skirl,
Yes.
Ms. Phillips,
Yes.
Ms. Cowan,
Yes.
Ms. Groff,
Yes.
Mr. Beltram.
Yes. Next are the approval items for the assistant superintendent with regards to the educational programs. Mrs. Martin, Mr. Freeman.
Good evening, everyone. It's always fun to follow Matt and talk about roads and water and cell towers. Like, I like it, Matt. You keep things good. I'm back to not talk tonight again about preschool and childcare. Seems like I do that a lot. But we have some proposals and some updates for you for this year. So you have it in front of you. Mary Beth and her team, I think, have done a nice job with their proposal around. They'd like to change the name and why. So I'm going to read what they've written. King's Preschool provides excellent early childhood education and special education services to the King's youngest learners. The majority of our educators are licensed to teach both the general ed curriculum and early childhood special education. We have an experienced and dedicated staff that delivers exceptional educational opportunities for kids, King's children 3 to 5 years old. We propose a name change to King's Early Childhood Center. This aligns with Ohio's focus on the importance of early childhood education and acknowledges that our school district provides the highest quality education that sets us apart from surrounding private entities. When I talked with Mary Beth around this name, we know early childhood means instructional practices, childhood development, multiple learning approaches, a little bit different in description than what preschool means. We also did a little bit, Mary Beth and I started looking up surrounding districts. Almost everyone is an early childhood center because it does encompass what you do in special ed and all the different ways you teach our students and instruct. So that's the first proposal. We would like to see the change to King's Early Childhood Center. The next part, and I'm going to invite Mr. Morrow, Mr. Sears, Mr. Spinner to jump in because we've all worked with Mary Beth on the rate changes as well as childcare downstairs and the costs around that. They are proposing that we do raise our rates. This has been a proposal, and we've worked through this, I think, quite a few years with Mr. Furness and Mr. Morrow. We have raised the rates every year to try to get to where we think the rates should be. There's a lot of things going on, as you know, around payroll, prices of items. We use a lot of paper downstairs. Paper is expensive. When we do that with IEPs, ETRs, just the programs we do. So Mary Beth has put on here what we currently pay versus what the proposed increase would be around our 4-day, our Young Fives program, and then childcare. When you see wraparound, that means those are the peaceful program, and then they also go to a child care day, part of the day. The other part of this is, and then I'll talk to you if you have any questions, is we are going to propose that we do away with the 2-day program. That program has, the enrollment for that program has gone down pretty much every year. A few years ago with our gen ed programs that we have to provide through ODEs, we started having more 4-day gen ed programs, and most of our typical students are going to those programs now. So we would just like to encompass those students into those programs. And that has been happening. We have no problem with that. Then I think Mary Beth added onto the bottom just cost comparison of other local preschools that she shared. So I'll take questions. Mr. Maron, I can share what we know around the costs and the prices.
I'll just add, as far as the cost increase, that we're not trying to make the early childhood center a break-even program by any means. We just want to be comparative to our neighbors and recoup some of that cost. It cost us over $10,000 for every preschooler, and even with the fee increase, it's going to be less than a $4,000 cost. So it's not a break even. It's just let's get ourselves up to that level where we're competitive with our neighbors, but still substantially cheaper than any of the private options, while giving a great service to our community and to our kids.
The Fridays with childcare only, what is that option?
That is typically our students who come to preschool Monday through Thursday go to childcare, right? So it's split up childcare and then half a day is preschool. On Fridays, there is no preschool. Send your child on Fridays, you're paying a little bit higher rate because they're in childcare all day and not preschool. There's no tuition that day.
Okay, because I just noticed the percentage of the increase that everything else is within like a 20 to 25% range, and that increase is substantially more than that percentage wise. So I was just trying to figure out.
And I'll add that the child care, that is a break even. So preschool and child care are two separate buckets of money. So we've seen steady rising costs in childcare, and that is one where we're asking the community to fund that program fully. So that increase is part of that. It is a fully funded program.
And do we offer any options for like our families that would qualify for a free and reduced lunch? Do we offer any options for them? Is there any assistance that we guide them to if they're not able to afford it? Or is it if you can pay, you go, and if you can't, you can't?
I don't know what they do around the cost of that and how they pay for that.
Special education students don't pay. We don't currently have any options as far as if you're free and reduced, it's a reduced rate.
Okay.
So not at this time, no.
Okay, and there's nothing currently that we can refer those families to that might offer them some assistance.
I would have to do some more research into that and get
I
back
was
to
just
you.
curious.
No, it's a good question. It's a great thought, something that we should absolutely advertise if there is something. So
Okay.
it's great.
Any other questions? Thank you guys for presenting this, and to Ms. Fossey and her team for getting this data and work done. With that, can I have a motion to approve the items for the assistant superintendent regarding educational programs?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second the motion.
Mr. Morrow, could you call the roll, please?
Ms. Phillips,
Yes.
Ms. Groff,
Yes.
Mr. Skirl,
Yes.
Ms. Cowan,
Yes.
Mr. Belfron.
Yes. Next up are items presented by the board. Mrs. Phillips, I will defer to you for the student achievement.
I really only brought one item today. Well, I had more, but Gracie was kind enough to give some information on all of those. So I was talking to Brian McDonough, and I was thrilled to hear from him that in February, there is the Ohio Music Education Association State Conference. And during that state conference, they usually select 3 different musical groups to perform. And guess what? Kings is one of those 3 that will be performing. They had to send in an audition CD, and out of 135 auditions, they were one of the 3 chosen. So that's a huge honor. In fact, Mr. McDonough said, it's a huge honor to be invited and perform at this event. So I had that down. And then Gracie talked about so many of the other clubs and organizations. And I just wanted to say that relationship building goes beyond the school hours, and that you could just see the plethora of different activities that students can be involved in and the great relationships. If you looked at those pictures, they were all smiling, hugging each other, and just having a great time and building strong bonds and relationships.
Well, I'll just say this quickly. And I think my colleagues will agree. I know they will. Just want to thank staff, administration, staff. It's interesting. We split up the academic year and then we have the full calendar year. This is our last meeting of the year, and just wanted to thank you all for all of your hard work. A lot has gone on this year. Brought on Mr. Morrow. This is really just the second half of Mr. Sears' first year into June. Yeah, coming out of pandemic and a levy campaign, we've accomplished quite a bit this year. Students have endured a lot, trusted us with a lot. So just want to thank all of you for all of your hard work this calendar year and this first half of this academic year. You've all been great as always, and speak for my colleagues and say we appreciate that very much.
Great. Thank you, Stacy.
Next with that would be on the agenda would be the legislative updates from Mr. Skrull.
All right. Thank you. So nothing that Governor DeWine has signed or nothing has come to his desk for signature, but I did include a legislative update within the meeting agenda here. One item I did want to speak to was the governor activity, which Mr. Lucky has spoke to already. Was he announced, the Governor DeWine announced the list of schools receiving funds for the safety grant. Unfortunately, we didn't get that. But I did want to put that. And then there are several bills that have been going through either the House or the Senate that are up for discussion. Some have passed the House and made it onto the Senate. Honestly, I could sit here for half an hour and read them all off, but I don't think any of us want that. So if you could just go through the link that's in there, it has all of the House bills and Senate bills which have either passed one or have gone into discussion status, and not just within there, but I've also included several different committees that are where there are bills that are being presented or being discussed, and activity going on with the State Board of Education. So please read through these, and there are links to further information within each of the bills. So when you have some free time for reading, this would be definitely some good reading, and it's all interesting. So you can see the track of everything on there. A lot of information for everyone to look at this month. If there's any questions.
Thanks for putting this together.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, that's a lot of work. Thank you.
You're welcome. Looking forward to reading. Actually, committees are always very interesting.
Yeah, and yeah, as you said, it's interesting reading, and that honestly, by going through this, I've learned a lot about the whole process. So,
Any more questions for Mr. Skrull? And with that, next on our agenda is executive session. We will be entering into executive session to consider the appointment, employment, dismissal, discipline, promotion, demotion, or compensation of a public employee or official. May I have a motion to enter into executive session?
I can make that motion.
I'll second.
Mr. Morrow.
Ms. Groff,
Yes.
Mr. Skirl,
Yes.
Ms. Cowan,
Yes.
Ms. Phillips,
Yes.
Mr. Belfrom.
Yes. We are now back from executive session. May I have a motion to adjourn this evening's meeting?
I will make that motion.
I'll second the motion.
Mr. Morrow,
Ms. Cowan,
Yes.
Ms. Phillips,
Yes.
Ms. Groff,
Yes.
Mr. Skirl,
Yes.
Mr. Belfrom.
yes. Meeting's adjourned. Everyone have a fantastic holiday season. We'll see you all next year.